Gather round, dads, it's time for a tale. Hand me a book and a warm pint of ale. Let's discuss writing and the literary gods with Dan Roberts on the Dadlit Pod.
Welcome to the Dadlit Pod, the literary podcast for dads like me and my guest, Jourdan Dunn, who goes by the pseudonym Jonathan D. Clark because there is a French model who shares the name Jourdan Dunn and the spelling, which is interesting. Jonathan D. Clark is a literary fiction author, cover designer, and interior formatter. He's a California native, but now resides in New York on Long Island with his wife and two sons. He's the author of Division Street, 2016, Perfect Lines, 2017, and now out of print, Arcadia from 2019, False Cathedrals, my apologies, in 2020, and his most recent Ithaca Lay Forgotten 2022, which I gave a read to. He's currently working on his sixth novel, The Speed of Film. Jonathan, welcome to the Dadlet Pod.
Thanks for having me.
What convinced you? You're on six novels now.
Yeah.
What convinced you to sit down and continue to write to the point where you're now on six novels? You're people can't see you. You're a very young looking man.
Yeah.
Uh, you look healthy.
Well, thank you.
What is what
I don't
convinced
feel it,
you?
but thank you.
Yeah.
At least I look it.
What convinced you to do it and to keep doing it?
So I started writing. I can actually give you the exact day. It was February 18th, 2011.
Hmm.
Um, I was still 20 at the time. My parents had so like the Christmas before, my mom was like, "I'm leaving your dad."
Hmm.
Um, and then I was working at the local Target where I used to live, and I came to what is now my dad's house, but it was my childhood home. I came in and
Hmm.
the whole house was like empty, except for the bedroom, the kitchen. Everywhere else was just emptied. Like even my stuff was gone, and I'm like, I sleep here, like, um, um. I just sat down one night and I just kind of the first scene of chapter one started off in first person of Division Street, I should say.
Hmm.
Um, Started off me just kind of like detailing what it was like to come home to that, and then I was like, well, what if this was like the start of a novel? So I started writing a novel, which became Division Street. And then while writing that one took 5 years to write. I didn't finish till like the tail end of 2015. Um, because like there was a lot of life stuff going on at that time. Um,
Yeah, sounds like it.
like it was like 2010, parents divorced, 2011, grandpa dies, like 2012, all this, just a bunch of stuff. So I just kept getting sidetracked with all like life. But then within that 5 year period, I started having ideas for Imperfect Lines, Arcadia, False Cathedrals. And so I started like outlining that all of those at the same time, which also took away time from writing the book. So, um, but even after writing that one, I was like, I don't know if I have it in me to write another one. Well, let me try. And then I write it. I'm like, I don't know if I have it in me to write the next one. I'll try anyway. So it's just kind of like, I guess, proving myself that I could still do it. That's why on my sixth one. And even even as I'm nearing the end of this one, I'm telling my wife, I'm like, I don't know if I'll write a seventh one. And then I finished part three because it's a 4 part. There's 4 sections to the novel. I split my books
Yeah.
into sections usually, and I just finished section three, and I'm going on to section four. I'm like, I have an idea for like 2 more novels. And she's like, I thought you said you weren't going to write. I'm like, I might write one more. So, but then as soon as I finish this one, I'll be like, I don't know if I have another novel in me in terms of energy, but I'll probably still write a seventh one. So,
So, so is there a joy to it? Are you getting a joy out of it,
It's
or
it,
is it just inertia?
it's a weird sort of like I guess love-hate relationship. Like I feel joy in terms of the progress. Like
Hmm.
once I've finished like writing, like if I have a really good writing week and I'm like, oh, I finished, you know, 6,000 words. I'm like, all right, that's progress. But like the act of it, I don't care for. But as soon as I'm done with it, I'm just like, okay, at least I got through it. Um, so it, it's like pulling teeth, but then it's like I don't know, a tooth grows out of it, and I enjoy the smile. I don't know. It's a really weird relationship with writing. Like
It sounds it. It sounds it.
because I
Do you have like an audience in mind?
um
Because I always have when I sit down to write, I aim to sort of delight.
mhm.
Like that's my goal is that
So
I want to do something that's fun and interesting
yeah. So I
because it pleases me.
can't remember which author said it. I want to say it's either Vonnegut or Kerouac, which are very different authors.
Hmm.
But it was the advice was write for one person. It doesn't have to, you don't have to be doesn't have to be yourself, but like say it's like, oh, this is a book my mother would enjoy, or this is a book that my best friend John would enjoy. Write
Hmm.
for them. If you can please them, there's probably someone out there who will also like that, who has the same taste as your friend. So it's like it grows from there, but focus on the one person.
Hmm.
So I always focus on one individual. I'm like, who would enjoy this if I wrote it? And then I just go from there and kind of like toy with it. Like right now, the speed of film, I was like, because I started writing it right before me and my wife started talking, and it had a completely different outline. And then we started talking about, I'm like, well, how about I started having like a change of perspective because I wasn't as cynical anymore. But so I'm like, well, what if I made it like a happy-ish ending? Not happy, but happy-ish. Um, so I'm writing the book kind of with her as the audience in mind, and then like whoever likes that type of book, um, who has her similar taste will enjoy the book as well, kind of thing.
Oh, okay. And so what is the book about?
The one I'm currently writing.
Yeah, the one you're
Um,
currently writing.
okay, um, so it takes place. It starts off in Los Angeles, and it follows these screenwriters in LA that experience a tragedy at their workplace, and then kind of to recollect themselves, they decided to go initially just on a trip to Las Vegas.
Hmm.
But then something happens there, good fortune. So they're like, well, let's just make a trip out of it. Let's just go to the East Coast. The main character is originally from Indiana, so they're like, well, let's just go there. One of the other characters is from New York. He's like, I've got family in New York. I could see them. I haven't seen them in years. So it kind of becomes that. Then like once they get to Indiana, it becomes kind of a family drama, like because the main character's been away from his home state for 12 years. Turns out there's some family issues that have kind of arisen up while he's been away, so he's dealing with that. And then family secrets start to kind of unfold
So
in
it's
the
a road
process.
trip movie.
Yeah, it's a road trip novel. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is much like the novel you sent me to read.
Yeah. So here's another thing about my writing process I've realized. I was thinking about it. So like Division Street was sort of dystopian, and then Imperfect Lines, the book that followed it, was sort of like explored the same themes but in a more contemporary, less odd setting. Then Arcadia explored another set of different themes than those two novels. And then False Cathedrals was the contemporary counterpart to Arcadia. And then so Ithaca became the post-apocalyptic road trip novel. I'm like, well, what if I did it contemporary? And instead of it being, well, you read the book, having such an ending, I did this instead.
Yes.
So I kind of work in this mirrored fashion.
Yeah, so you're exploring
Yeah,
themes.
I like to explore ideas and themes with my books for the most
Hmm.
part.
Yeah, Ithaca, well, As Ithaca Lay Forgotten. I
Yeah,
just want to make sure I get it right. Um, has all sorts of different sort of scenes and environments to it.
yeah. With that, with Ithaca, I wanted to treat each chapter, which each chapter has four sections within it,
Hmm.
um, almost exploring different conventions of genre. So, like the first chapter, I was like, oh, I'll do just my basic post-apocalyptic literary thing. And then chapter two is where the road trip starts. And then chapter three, I was like, well, let's do horror.
Hmm.
So I threw in that little horror element. Then chapter four was sort of like, I don't want to say romance, but it kind of ties into the female main character, Gillette's favorite film, which I never mentioned by name, but it's Before Sunrise
Hmm.
from 1995 or six. And then chapter five is like the tragedy, and then chapter six dips its toe into science fiction and is actually ties Ithaca to Arcadia as like a prequel.
Hmm.
So, because
And
there's a character Regina that's actually in Arcadia as well.
it's interesting um, playing with genre conventions. It reminds me of there's a show with Annie Murphy who is from that really funny show Kevin Must Die uh, or something. Let me look it up
Okay.
real quickly. Yes, so Annie Murphy's a Canadian actress, and she was in Schitt's Creek, and she's also in this show called Kevin Can Fuck Himself or something. Yeah, Kevin Can Fuck Himself, and basically the show presents um, the story in different formats based on different TV genres.
Oh, okay.
So for example, uh, her obnoxious husband is like a single cam or a multicam style television sitcom like
Okay.
Cheers or something, with the live studio
Yeah.
audience. And he's just like an obnoxious sort of like fat lout. And of course, her story, because it's a little more gritty and a little more interesting, it goes into this like single cam drama, Breaking Bad style
All right.
artistry. And then when last I was watching it, they'd actually sort of even changed that even more. They had certain scenes that were filmed like a Days of Our Lives style soap opera.
Okay.
And I thought that was really an interesting way to kind of do a show. I haven't seen the second season, but it kind of sounds like what you're describing is sort of this idea of exploring different genres,
Mhm.
which to some extent gets me on a thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately, which is about how the topic or the theme dictates the style.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm struggling with tone, right? With consistent tone.
Yeah.
Personally, in my writing, I wrote a thriller that, in a lot of ways, might come off initially as a domestic thriller,
Hmm.
but it's actually much more of like a Mick Herron style, well-meaning kind of like fun thriller
Yeah.
with thrilling elements and gritty elements, but based in the United States. And one of the challenges I had was like, I know what I like, right? But
Yeah.
understanding genre and capturing the sort of genre elements to keep people in the experience needed, like, I need to work on that
Oh,
conceptually,
mhm.
right? Does that
Yeah,
make
that
sense?
makes sense. Yeah,
And knowing the style to fit the themes
yeah.
and the way to do it. Um, I personally don't like writing in first person. I
Oh,
like
neither do I.
writing. I like. I get it. I get why, some people are into it.
Yeah,
Obviously, it's the dominant. Like right now in popular fiction, first person is the dominant because it's all about perspective, right?
yeah.
They're very plot heavy books. The
And I
focus is on perspective.
and I feel like readers also they like kind of getting into the character's head as much as possible, and first
Yeah.
person really drives that home.
Not to mention, um, while people say like, oh, we want like voicey prose, they don't actually want voicey prose. They want sort of voicey first person characters.
Yeah,
There's a real resistance to the to having the narrator uh, get too out of line
yeah,
almost, uh, which is interesting considering that we went through that era where there were a lot of like self-reflexive documentaries, and we had the experience of um, the Netflix show that had Kevin Spacey, where he talks to the camera.
oh, House of Cards, is
House
that it?
of Cards, yeah, for example. And so I think that's interesting. You obviously are doing a lot more literary
Yeah,
style of stuff. Um, to that extent, is this an issue in the area of literary authorship and literary writing, or I just notice it because I read a lot of thrillers, and that first person element, particularly in the domestic thriller, is just dominant in the market.
yeah. Um, what I've noticed with especially reading literary fiction,
Hmm.
it can go either way. It can either be third or first. Like DeLillo bounces back and forth between first person and third.
Yeah.
Like even with Underworld, there's one character that is strictly first and everyone else is third person. So it's like there's this
Hmm.
bit of and but um and I find that I think first person probably dominates in that regard. But I don't know. I can't write in it that well. I just feel like I'm always
Hmm.
saying I this, I that. And it just I don't know, it just to me it just feels more fluid to kind of have that sort of psychic distance between the characters and the narrator, almost as
Yeah.
if the narrator is just the fly on the wall telling you what they're seeing.
Hmm.
I don't know that I just find that easier, and it could be because with the advent of television, we're kind of viewing everything in a third person point of view with that. So it probably just was that like so television probably had an influence on me on that regard to not
Hmm.
be even though I think there's a few first person movies out there, but they're too it's like they're too jarring.
it's yeah, it makes you nauseous.
Yeah.
There's the yeah, it was that first video game that came out that had like actual first person, where you obviously experience the motion of physically moving,
Mhm.
because you play classical first person shooters, for example,
Yeah.
and the camera doesn't bounce like as you would experience it
Yeah.
if you were moving. Um, and to that extent, I don't think we realize how jarring it is to experience our reality, experiencing another reality.
Yeah.
And yet, ironically, that's what we do with books.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
Sort of subsume yourself and subsume your existence while entering another vessel rather than rather than witnessing that vessel. So this is interesting. Who would you say are your favorite literary authors, or
Um,
just in general, your favorite people to
gener
read these days?
I mean, I'll just so first, like I would say, uh, one of my favorite authors, in fact, the author who made me think, well, I could probably do this, was not a literary author. He was science fiction. That was Philip K. Dick.
Hmm.
And then in college I got into DeLillo and Pynchon.
Hmm.
Um, then I started reading Jonathan Lethem.
Hmm.
I like him. But I mean, talking about reading, I have to mention that like my first love for books was because of The Count of Monte Cristo. So Alexander Dumas, although I wouldn't say literary fiction, would you? I don't know. Maybe that's just the
I mean, I don't know that there was a
was a
difference.
genre back
Yeah,
then
there
or a
was a
difference.
difference
Um,
between like a classic like that, right?
yeah,
I mean, there was poetry
there was poetry, but then
and
there
there
was just
were epics.
fiction. Yeah, then there was
And then
epics.
yes. Well, it's funny, reading fiction was frowned upon uh for a long time, right?
Yeah, it was.
Uh
Yeah,
the underlying idea being that um, that when a person read fiction, it was effectively the tantamount to masturbation.
yeah.
There's a really great history book called A Social History of Masturbation, and I did not just buy it. I had a course in graduate school
Okay.
on the history of sexuality. And so the sort of idea was that it was that the reading of fiction uh, was, first of all, it was onanist or masturbatory because a
Mm,
person did it by themselves. And in addition to that, it was pleasurable, right?
yeah.
So the kind of concept of a person sitting down by themselves to read uh, back then was perceived, if you were not reading religious text
Mhm.
or religious commentary, which even at the time of the Enlightenment, I think we could say was tantamount to a type of science, right?
Yeah.
Theology. Uh, and you were reading fiction, you were basically in there, you were doing what a child does, or you were being sort of frivolous and masturbatory. So it was actually mostly um, women
Uh-huh. Doing the reading.
doing the reading, doing the fiction reading. And then, you have books like The Count of Monte Cristo and those early uh, exploratory novels. I mean, there's a reason why, right, like Herman Melville spends so much time talking about
Whaling.
theology and the rigors of whaling. It's- you know what I mean? So, yeah, uh, interesting. And he obviously comes a little later,
Yeah.
but yeah. So, um, which begs the question, uh, is the period where the modern novel, starting with, let's just say, Dumas, and going up until the internet and television
Mm.
ruined everything.
And
Or made everything increase the range of available options.
yeah, it definitely increased the range of available options, and I feel like
Yes.
reading has sort of suffered in that regard because reading takes time as to where, television, music,
Hmm.
that just takes a couple minutes, maybe, an hour for a show, 30 minutes, but or, if you're listening to a singular song, it's like 3 to 5 minutes. Like
It
as
also
to
takes concentration and
yeah,
immersion.
immersion and also, retaining information so that way when you get to a later part in the books, you're not going, well, wait, hold on. But, as opposed to where, in a television show, even TV shows, they have the recap. It's where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 okay.
Oh my, yes. So to that extent, I'm exploring this sort of line of questioning because, of course, what we're contending with now is this sort of idea that male fiction reading and writing has fallen off.
Yeah,
I actually think that there are probably more men writing fiction these days than were ever writing fiction.
yeah.
They're just not,
I'll agree with that.
they're just not reading it.
We switched. We're like, well, they're not really selling anything to us these days, so I'll write it. Like,
Yes, I'll just write it. And beyond that, I haven't met a lot of men who sort of like sit down and just are like, I have to read this book or I have to. I've met some. I've met
yeah.
some, but even my friends who have advanced degrees,
Mhm.
they'll read Sanderson if they're into fantasy.
Mhm.
They'll complain that The Winds of Winter hasn't come out. Uh, they'll read anime or manga,
Mhm.
and that'll just sort of be a thing, or Warhammer 40K fiction.
Yeah,
But the sort of idea of the family man sitting down to read literary fiction has
yeah,
kind of fallen off.
yeah. It does. Or even like,
Um,
or even just like reading the latest. Well, he's dead, but at the time, the latest Robert Ludlum novel, like reading
yeah,
a spy thriller, like that's kind of fallen off too.
yes, yeah, and at the same time, there are a lot of men that are writing. Like you,
Yeah,
you're a perfect example. You've written, or you're now working on your sixth novel.
yeah,
I'm working on my fifth. Uh, there are a lot of the dad literati. I'm always having people who want to come on and talk about their books. And and to that extent, it's intriguing that there's this vibrant writing community of men who have something to say and want to say it and want to express themselves and do that. And at the same time, the environment has really only changed in as much as the audience is no longer as captive
yeah,
from the reader perspective, which is an interesting thing to think about. Um, it's sort of you talking about what inspired you to sit down and do yours is what, is sort of like got me thinking about this.
yeah,
Um, the the imbalance in that regard, I think if we all had a million hours in the day, we would read each other.
yeah. Definitely.
You
But
know?
there's just so few hours, especially, as a dad, you're doing homework with the kids or getting them to
Yes.
bed, keeping the house from catching on fire,
Yes, cooking.
cooking.
Um,
When you finally get a free moment, it's like, well, okay, do I write? Do I read? Do I spend time with the wife and watch a TV show? Like what do you,
y-
so
yeah, yeah. At the same time, like you and I have been saying, the pastime of reading. We don't get together in groups to do sustained silent reading together.
no.
You know what I mean? There are not a lot of men's book clubs.
No, there's not. It's
Uh,
usually women book clubs, usually, yeah.
yeah, when the most effective way to write is to write, sort of on your own, except that the male view of the literary project is actually quite pro-social,
Hmm.
right? There's a strong desire to be read and to talk about it, while at the same time the entire process is very it's self-involved is not the right word. It's
I want to say insular, but I don't know if that feels right either.
no, it's not
But
even yeah, it's not even insular because you're actually quite open to things
yeah,
if you're sharing yourself on the page.
yeah,
And then the other thing is that the most of these authors aren't particularly introverted either.
no.
Um, which gets to this interesting question of why we do it, right?
Um, yeah, I mean,
Is it about glory? I mean, is it about glory? Is it about esteem? Um,
I mean,
I'm asking you because, like you said, you get to the point, or as you've articulated, you sort of get to this point where you're like, "Oh, I don't know if I have another one in me, and then another one presents itself. It's
yeah, I mean,
it's what propels that urge and what rewards it? Like what's the reward or the mouse that gets offered food or cocaine? I use that I use this as an example because admittedly, people really struggle to make money,
yeah,
even if they're writing to the point where they can, be at like this sort of paid to write level, right?
yeah. I don't,
At the other side, there's this massive sphere of individuals who are still, you know, committing time and energy and money to sharing themselves. And what is driving that?
that's a good question.
Yes.
Gosh, for me, I guess what keeps me coming back
Yeah.
is just I ruminate on these, these ideas or, these questions.
Hmm.
Like for Ithaca it was like, what would really be left once the world ends? And
Hmm.
could you find the beauty in something, even if it's just a relic that you have no ties to, but you've kind of developed this sort of affinity for, like as Havoc and Gillette do with literature and film,
Hmm.
because there's no new movies being made in that world. Um, and it's kind of like, you know, kind of it dips in this world of nostalgia, I guess. So I guess for me, it's like I'm just sort of grappling with, for me, while I'm writing, is like answering the question for myself first, and then trying
Hmm.
to shape it to where it's like, if someone reads this, will they, even if they weren't thinking of this topic, will it move them? And I think that
Hmm.
even, and then I, I publish the work, and then, I it gets a good number of sales in the beginning, then it trickles out as I'm writing the next one because I suck at marketing. Like, um, but when I first publish a book, I'm kind of like pushing it a little more, but then it's like, oh, I'm writing the next one. I kind of forget about the other, five at this point. Um, and I'm just
Well,
working on that
yeah.
next one. So I guess for me, it's just I enjoy the sort of possibility of having this very delayed um, conversation with the reader as they're reading the work with me, or
Hmm.
after the fact. um, I guess that's what kind of just keeps me going, and is the possibility and the hope that someone reads it, and it's like almost as if I'm having that
A
sort of
conversation.
conversation with them, and
Hmm.
then maybe they'll think about the ideas that I was thinking about while writing it or even before writing it,
Hmm.
and that it'll sit with them for a bit. And that's, I think that's what keeps me going, is just that possibility of conversation.
Yeah, it's pro-social.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And and then
it's an incredibly
and
solitary way of having a
yeah, it's
conversation.
it's yeah, I mean I've never, had someone who's read a book be like, "Oh, I enjoyed this and this," but like just the fact if they've read it, or and if they leave a review saying
Hmm.
what they liked about it, in a way that's the conversation. It's like, okay, they saw that, they read it, they got it to an extent.
Hmm.
I'm happy with that. Um, so I guess that's what keeps me going, is just the possibility of conversation, even if it's completely disconnected.
Hmm.
Um, so
That's interesting because it's very, I think it's very different for everybody.
yeah,
Um, you know, I think ultimately I wonder if I wonder if the kind of atomization of contemporary society as it stands, right? So we talk about male loneliness, for example,
yeah,
um, or we talk about the idea that everyone goes home at the end of the day, and these like third places of like fraternal organizations, families are very separated conceptually, right? You used to generally be around your tribe or your tribal group.
hmm,
In addition, people have stepped away from religious congregation, and yet a bunch of men are trying to have a conversation through books,
yeah,
right?
hmm, and yeah, which I mean, speaking of like as it being a conversation, and also bringing on a past dadlit interviewee guest.
Yes.
Uh, that's kind of how that's how I kind of felt reading Duffy's work. It felt to me like a
Oh yeah.
conversation,
Yeah, it's conversation.
because I read both of his books, and the first one, is dealing with the loss of a friend, and like it felt very personal, and of course it felt like he was
Hmm.
sort of unloading on you, and it was like, okay, like I've lost friends too, so I can kind of commiserate with this.
Yeah.
And then the second book, Where When It Rains, I always have a hard time with that one. Where When It Rains.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm always getting in trouble with it
like
too.
I always just want to say when it rains, but I'm like, no,
Yeah,
where when it
where,
then I almost want to say Wayne's. I'm like, no,
and,
where
and
when
then
it.
of course he published Richard's book, which is Dry the Rain,
Yeah, but
and it's a lot of rain going on over there.
I should write a book called Rain and
Yeah,
send
just
it
rain,
with
send
some milk.
it
Like, yeah,
in.
Rain.
Rain.
Um, but with
Yeah, I
that
agree
one,
with that. I agree with that. But also, I think Duffy also, knowing him, there's he has a very exacting nature.
mhm,
There's sort of I'm sure someone told him at some point that like the visual descriptions of things are passe, and he was like, no, I'm gonna punk rock garage this shit,
yeah,
and I'm gonna visually describe everything and do it in a sort of like a drunken ambling distorted view of uh of early 20s angst,
yeah,
and which is an interesting thing about his book, um that he does that. At the same time, his book is a morality tale as well, I think,
yeah,
in a lot of ways. So the conversation element, as you say, is still there. I think it is a conversation.
yeah. I
Um,
and also just the fact that it takes place in a era that I grew up. I was coming of age right around that
mhm.
2008 collapse.
Yeah, as was I.
So it was so in that regard, I'm like I'm right there with you. And but then also, like you said, the morality, and I would even say kind of like the book sort of grapples with when does nihilism kind of become when does it overcome you or takes over your life, and when should you kind of try to maybe step away from it? Because it felt
Yeah.
like he was just lost in a malaise of you know um,
Yeah, it's
meaningless. It's
meaninglessness.
meaningless,
Yes.
and it's like
Yeah. Well,
and
it is a book about growing up in that extent, which is also a big theme that I've found, particularly in the literary set
mhm,
of dad-led authors of our age. I think that, I mean, for example, being an adult child of divorce, uh, growing up with the generation that, the American marriage broke down,
yeah,
it complicated childhoods. We had these, sort of childhood epochs of September 11th, 2008 financial crisis. By the way, they just keep coming
yeah.
over and over and over. Now
In
we've
in,
had COVID, the
in fact,
Iraq
actually,
War, Afghanistan. Yeah.
actually, the speed of film takes place at the turn of the beginning of the 20th century. So
Yep.
it'll deal with like the dot com boom and all that stuff near the end of
Mhm.
spoilers, I guess. But
Yeah,
inter-
it's
but
the rapid evolution
of
of um which is why one of the reasons why I think a lot of people write post-apocalyptic novels as well.
yeah,
I think there's um a real sense of lost control
mhm,
that comes with the sort of globalizing of everything, like the globalizing of food, the globalizing, and in some cases, I'm not going to say it's like with cigarettes, like with the Marlboro, and the idea that they were like people want to smoke because it's cool and there's a sense of like danger, and they
yeah,
recognize there's a sense of danger. I think it's actually um almost a yearning for a simpler um, breed of male men in male existence, but also community building
mhm,
and getting back to kind of primal, preferred sort of ideas without the disruption
mhm,
outside. And aside from that, it also tends to make stories function a lot simpler by removing things that complicate stories, like
yeah,
television or so you're not doing what DeLillo was doing, for example, with white noise, which is just like everything is white noise.
yeah,
Um, in the trying to write a literary novel with the endless hum of existence around you
mhm,
uh, is just it's challenging. I mean, I'm dealing with it right now. I'm trying to write a horror novel about a high school, but I'm setting it back so
mhm.
that I can get before Facebook, before all of these
All
things.
the noise in a
Yeah,
way.
because it's just noise. It's just noise.
Yeah,
And it,
I think that's actually now that I'm kind of looking at it, like all of my works, like even though like it's either post-apocalyptic where there's no technology of that sort,
yeah,
or it's taking place before 2007 where that just wasn't you wouldn't have the smartphone. We had cell phones, but even then the service was spotty.
yeah.
You couldn't really rely on
And
them.
it was just like text, you know what
Yeah,
I mean? Yeah.
it wasn't like, oh, let me look up the weather, or let
Yes.
me look up oh, I can't remember the name of the actor. Let me just Google the movie that I know. That like
Yeah.
everything is just too easy. I feel like even my wife and I, like when we can't think of an actor, we try to see how long we can go without Googling it. Like let's try to get this on our
Well,
own.
yeah, obviously I did Annie Murphy earlier in this
Yeah.
episode.
And like one time we couldn't remember Bill Hader for some reason. And
He's pretty forgettable.
and we're like I'm like he was on SNL. It's like she's like, well, that could be anyone. I'm like, he
Yeah,
was in this. And we even when we mentioned like super bad and he was one of the cops, and we're like, she's like, I can't remember his name. And then finally we just happened to look at one of our cats whose name is Bill, and we're
yeah,
like, Bill Hader. Like I just thank you. Like, thank you, cat. Like like it took us days to remember. But yeah, that everything's just yeah, the noise thing. Everything is just noise
yes,
these days. And I think that you're onto something there with like that's why a lot of us male writers today are like kind of going back to before that was a thing. Like
yeah.
um
Well, yeah, and the conversation element of it,
yeah.
like this is how I grew up,
Hmm.
right? Let me tell you how I grew up, and particularly with dad-led authors, there's there's like a romantic element, but also a regret and a wanting to see sort of moral growth at the end of it,
Hmm.
which I think is interesting. It says something about us that we're doing this as a group of people, um, all in our homes by ourselves,
Yeah.
and wanting to share it with people,
Yeah.
and putting a lot of energy into sharing it with people.
Imagine if we did it all in the same room though. That'd be weird.
That's what I'm saying.
Like be like, Dan, how's chapter whatever going? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Dad, what are you exploring in chapter 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a way of communicating, but we're doing it in an interesting way.
Yeah.
I think about like the men's groups of the 80s and 90s and all the Iron John stuff and that the boomers did. And they just read Siddhartha and, you
Hmm.
know, pursued their own glorious, path to whatever. Uh, I'm very cynical about this, about the boomers and their
Yeah.
Siddhartha obsession. Uh, and we're doing something very different.
Hmm.
We're not reading Siddhartha. We're very duty bound, very like conceptually looking at ourselves and seeking moral and physical and emotional improvement. And I think almost um, I wonder if that like that figures into the literary process that we're all pursuing and the stuff we're all doing.
I think it. I think it definitely has to in some way
Yeah.
because, um, especially uh, with my own writing, there's always the
Yeah, yeah.
characters are
Well, yeah, I
right.
bring this to you because you write very
Yeah.
philosophically about this.
Like especially with the speed of film that I'm working on right now, the main character Ethan, he's dealing with the regret that he wasn't there for like his family when can I curse on the show?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, when shit hit the fan,
Yeah.
um, like because something happened to his sister who's 8 years younger than him
Hmm.
when he was gone, and she was in high school when it happened. So he's kind of living with that like regret of like I should have been here to protect her. That should have
Hmm.
been that whatever what happened to her should not have happened. Then of course what's going on with his grandfather. It's like I should have been here to help the family. That way it wasn't the burden wasn't too much on my father, my
Hmm.
mother. Um, and he and when certain revelations are made known to his known to him, he does take action. So it's
Yeah.
like it's sort of like him, stepping up when for the times that he couldn't. And it's so like making up for lost time in a way, but also kind of righting the wrongs that he couldn't prevent from happening.
Hmm.
Um, So yeah, I definitely I feel like it's almost ingrained. I feel like it's ingrained in us as writers these days to put forth that moral compass
Arc.
arc, and not, I wouldn't say compass, but yeah, the arc, but also kind of like almost going back to like the Hemingway era of like this is what a man has to do kind of thing,
Yeah,
but
it's
in a
it
more modern setting.
yeah, it's just very noticeable to me because I read a lot of contemporary male authors. There's like an across the board kind of desire to suss out and almost like abandon child like things,
Hmm.
and find authentic authentic existence. And we talk about the manosphere and all that sort of weird stuff, which I actually don't think is really a problem. I think it's just an internet problem, of like Tate and whatever. This is all a bunch of weird dudes. Um, to this extent, it's with one S, like, what is the ultimate experience, and whether it says something about us as a group. This interests me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know.
Well, anyway,
Yeah, I'm
we
sorry. I'm just you got me thinking. So
I
I'm just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
wow.
I
Like
what
like
should we
even if
be?
it's like, sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
okay. You go. You go.
Well, it's like, just like you're bringing up all this stuff. I'm like, it's stuff that like I realize. I'm like, wow, this is like you unknowingly do it throughout your life, and you just don't even think about it. Really, I don't know. It's just,
Yeah, yeah.
but anyway, you can go.
Yeah, it's sort of a universal experience, that I just noticed
Mm.
about from just talking and reading people's work, that there's clearly a collective conversation that wants to be had
Yeah,
outside of the simplicity of Twitter.
yeah,
Um, and that's that's what I've noticed. And clearly it's influencing all sorts of people. A lot of male dad lit authors.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, like I've even like having the conversation part. Like there's other male writers that I've found on Twitter, and have read. For instance, Turleson's one of them.
Hmm.
Uh, and his latest one, not the latest, not Fallen One Day, but the latest Fisher one. The opening line of saying, sometimes things are different and mostly that's okay.
Hmm.
Like to me, that's the like a perfect conversation starter sentence to me, and I think that just I don't know, and then it made you think like, sometimes things are different, and it's like, life is gonna throw a wrench at you or something like that, and
Hmm.
so and it's almost like through the other authors that I'm reading, especially the ones that I've found on Twitter. I don't know if they feel the same way, but I feel like in a way I'm kind of having the conversation with them now as
Hmm.
well within the writing sphere.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm glad that you're having that experience. I think it's very similar, for me, and one of uh, the bonuses of having the Davlit pod and getting to talk to so many people is sort of having that engagement, or almost getting to know people,
hmm,
through their writing, but also through you know um, the dynamic of having these literary conversations. Um, so yeah, well, that's I you know that's where we're at.
yeah,
Anyway.
but yeah, I'm kind of it kind of makes it seem a little bit, not that it didn't seem worthwhile before, but like finding the finding these books and feeling like you're part of the conversation. It kind of also makes it feel a little more worthwhile in a way, because it's like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not the only guy talking. There's other guys trying to talk to me,
Yeah,
through their work. Yeah.
like I said, it's very it's a very weird way for men to interact with each other, where it is very clear that there is an intended social outcome that we're all looking for.
Hmm.
And yet we try to achieve it by doing something that is not social at all. And
No,
and
it's like the
historically,
most indirect way ever.
yes, is completely antithetical to sort of like to social engagement. And particularly if you're Kafka and you want everyone to burn your stuff.
Yeah, but
but but yeah, I mean, it's something to think about. Yeah, I mean, maybe this is the sort of the thing that will define this kind of literary era
yeah,
is a bunch of dudes uh endeavoring to have lengthy conversations through their books about things like duty and fatherhood and loss and all those things.
yeah, which is interesting. Yeah, it's interesting.
Hmm.
Um, but
Well, anyway, let's plug your
oh,
books. Who?
all right. Well, I've got so one's out of print. In fact, I'm in the process of slowly reworking it, but
Hmm.
I'll do the ones that are available. You can get As Ithaca Lay Forgotten, False Cathedrals, Arcadia, and Division Street on Amazon. Currently, well, one of them, False Cathedrals, will never be available on ebook because the formatting is way too non-conventional, and ebook can't handle it. But I tried, believe me. But eventually I'll get them on ebook. I wasn't good at the software at the time, but working with Craig doing formatting has made me learn how to do it. So I'll
Oh, great.
probably get those up eventually. But you can get all those on Amazon. Speed of Film should be out, I would say, end of summer 2026.
Well, great. We'll be on the lookout for it. Get you back on. Maybe we'll have some answers to
Oh,
these
yeah,
pressing
definitely.
questions.
Yeah, I mean, I'd happily come back.
Yeah, absolutely, Jonathan. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, of course.
G
Thanks for having me.
Go out and get Jonathan's books on Amazon.
Our time together has come to an end. It's time to return to your wife, kids, and friends. It's time to pick up those books you forgot while you wait for the next ad lit.